What's going on, guys? Today we're going to be doing a test on white balance on the GoPro Hero 10 Black. I've been wanting to do this test for quite some time now. Right now I'm filming in my normal settings, which are 5.3K, 24 frames a second. With the linear lens, white balance is set to 5500K, and that 5500K is pretty much what I normally shoot in on a nice, clear, sunny day like we have today. My sharpness is set to medium, and my color is set to flat. Now I have a previous video where I talk about flat versus natural, and I love flat. Flat is my favorite color profile. It just makes sense with the overall image, and it just seems to have so much more dynamic range. But in terms of white balance, today we're gonna test native white balance. So let's go ahead right now and switch into that native white balance and see what it looks like out of the camera. Okay, right now we are filming in the native white balance, and from my understanding, this is basically the image coming off of the sensor with no white balance corrections from GoPro. So this is the sensor's native color. And there you got to see what it looked like in the shade. I'm now being side lit by the sun. So yeah, native white balance. I'm gonna be interested to see when I'm editing exactly what the difference is and what this looks like. I know it's gonna look a lot more flat, like less saturated type of a look, but what I'll do now is go ahead and try to color correct it to look really good. Okay, here's a good test. I am completely backlit. The sun, you can probably see in the sky right behind me, so I'm probably really dark, but this is a good test to see what this camera can do and what it can do with that native white balance. Okay, so here we are with native white balance, and it is color corrected by me. So what do you think? Am I able to get this footage looking good with that native white balance? Comment down below, let me know. So now that we have the native white balance out of the way, why don't we go back to 5500K, pair it to that, and here we are back at 5500K. In case you don't know what that means, this is not an auto setting on the white balance. This is a constant setting that I set, or you can set, and the camera doesn't change its white balance the entire time regardless of what the lighting conditions are. There's definite advantages to that at times, but there's also some disadvantages. Sometimes auto is just easier. All right, and for the sake of comparison, here is 6000K. Which looks better, the 5500K or the 6000? Now, I'm not color correcting any of this. This is straight out of the camera. 6000K on the white balance. All the other settings that I mentioned in the beginning of this video are the same, and we're about to hit a shadow here. So what do you think? 6000K in the shadow and in the sun? Should I be using 6000K or 5500K? And again, for the sake of comparison, we are now testing the natural color profile, and I'm backlit like crazy, so I'm probably pretty dark, but I just want to show you what this natural profile looks like. I don't think it looks very natural at all. I feel like it's way too contrasty. You lose a lot of the dynamic range when compared to flat. And here is natural side lit. The sun is completely to my side. It probably looks a heck of a lot better than it looked when I was backlit, of course. And I'm not saying it looks terrible. I just like the dynamic range you get out of flat. For some reason, what I've found with the natural profile is the lighting conditions have to be like perfect, probably like they are now. Tons of light to go around, and then maybe it looks good. But to be honest, what I don't like is the extreme amount of contrast. It really makes, you know, things in your skin kind of look a little worse than they normally would look. You know what? Let's go back to flat and we'll look at a difference right now. Okay, so here's flat. Now, what do you think? How does that contrast look? Is it a lot better with flat? Does it look more natural? I think flat should be called natural. It's not extremely flat, though it is a lot flatter than natural, but I do think you get a lot more dynamic range. And you know, in certain circumstances, you may have to do some sort of color correction, but for the most part, I think it's good enough on its own, especially when you're just using flat throughout your entire video. There's nothing really to compare it to, and so your eyes just generally kind of get used to it, and I think it actually looks pretty dang good. Okay guys, and to further drive home the point on color profile, this is now vibrant. And I want to show you something. Vibrant doesn't look a whole heck of a lot different from natural. So here's a steady shot of vibrant, and I'm going to go ahead and switch it over to natural now. And here is natural. Did you see a difference? There is a difference. It's very slight, but it's also very close to the vibrant setting. Just a little less vibrant. Now let's go ahead and see what flat looks like. And here is flat. And I know for the sake of comparison, because we're seeing these back to back, we are going to notice a pretty big difference. But what I'm getting at here is that flat is actually a superior color profile versus natural and vibrant. Flat just looks more natural. What do you think? Comment down below. All right, so I hope you enjoyed these tests. The main purpose of this video was, again, that white balance, the native white balance coming off of the sensor. I just really wanted to test that versus the standard 5500 or 6000K settings that I normally use. This, by the way, is still in the 6000K setting, and we are now in flat. So let me know what you guys thought of this overall test. Did you like the native white balance coming off of the sensor? Did you like that straight out of the camera? Or did you like after I color corrected it? Or did you hate it? Comment down below, let us all know what you think. All right guys, well that'll do it for this one. I am Jimmy for the General Expert channel here on YouTube. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit that thumbs up. Also, if you've watched this far and you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing. You may want to check out my other channel. It's called One Road. You can also find me on Instagram at One Road Garage, and a website that I have, oneroadgarage.com. All right, guys, I will see you in the next one. Okay, and I thought I'd end it back at 5500K just so you can kind of get a back-to-back view of what the 6000K versus 5500K white balance looks like. Again, comment below, let me know. Well, what do you know, after editing all of this footage and being able to look back at it after the corrections that I've made. First of all, I can't believe that I was saying that the natural and vibrant color profiles weren't terrible. I kind of sort of feel like they're terrible. I don't know how that passed GoPro's standards in terms of the way they want their footage to look coming out of camera for people to use and upload. It's so unbelievably contrasty. It's literally unusable. Both of them. Natural is a little less vibrant than vibrant, but they're both very, very contrasty. You lose so much dynamic range. I can't imagine who would ever want to use that. Flat color profile seems like where it's at. And then you just got to pick your actual white balance, whether you want native, like I showed you here, 5500, 6000, but even those, although I was very, very impressed with the native after correction, I still though think with that native after correction, it just kind of looks a little too saturated and maybe not super natural skin colors. I was actually really surprised that, well, first of all, that I had to correct the 55 and 6000K. They just seem to have a little bit of a yellowish green tint to them. So with a little bit of correction, and again, this is very, very quick, correction. I'm not spending all day on this. This is just temperature and tint and some saturation adjustments. Stuff like that. I didn't go in and do anything else. So yeah, surprised by the native white balance after correction, though I still think it needs a bit more work. That is gonna take a lot more work than just leaving it at 5500 or 6000. In my case, I'm probably gonna leave it at 5500K and then take care of the weird tint that has, and I think it's golden right out of the camera. Flat color profile, of course, and I think it just looks great. It's totally usable, and you can probably use your one correction that you have created for every bit of your footage, regardless of how you filmed it, as long as it was in 5500 and flat. You just apply your standard correction, and that's that.